Okay, coming back for part 4. What the Lord has shown me is that there is a level of just like in Samson, where Samson was seeking attention for his strength. Hercules got caught into using his strength for glory, meaning some of your spouses in the industries and places and spaces they're called to, the anointing that God gave them for his use, he or they got caught up in using it for attention, using it out of pride, using it out of their own will and rebellion for the world that they were walking in. It says in the word that there's a point where the Lord gives a warning to the people. I'm going to send you in there, but you're not supposed to become friends with, assimilate to, so on and so to it. And some of your spouses got in, and that's what happened. And then once the money and the fame of it came, because this is what happened to Hercules in this, the money and the fame came with it. And they had become lost in love of the very person that was sent to them, that had sold their soul for whatever it was that they had sold their soul. Think about it. Even that lines up to Esau and Jacob when it comes down to selling me your birthright. I'll give you the food. Some of these women that were counterfeits sold their soul for something minuscule, tangible, something that was just like food. It wasn't going to last. But because they sold their soul, they could not separate from it. But the sympathy and the God in your husband, who wears his heart on his sleeve, sympathized for this person. Because there's a scene here that is shown in Hercules where Meg is sitting there with Hercules and she's explaining how she feels about her situation. For some, the counterfeit, even the worst one of all of the counterfeits that your God ordained spouse was hooked up with, meaning the most narcissistic of the most of them, they got so comfortable with your God ordained spouse, they opened up about how they truly felt about what actually happened for them to get to the point that they were where they were. Because finally, even they were letting down their walls to this person. And this is also what angers that person about the fact that you're about to take them away. Because they opened up to this person in ways that they probably had not had the ability to, about the things that had been going on behind closed doors that most people don't know about, and where their heart truly lied about the situation. But when they started to notice your God ordained spouse being distracted, they then became the narcissists that they are. Because they're like, oh, he's attention somewhere else. And that's where that springs up from. So, coming back, your God ordained spouse thought that they could find a way to help them get out of their problem. Your God day spouse has such a good heart that they really just want to see everybody saved in this situation. This is why they're like, if I can be saved, the Lord can save you too, so on and so forth. But some of them, the Lord already has seen from beginning to end their heart, their truth of their heart, and the true desires. But the way that your God ordained spouse speaks, they think it's still even a possible chance for them because of the fact that he has a way with words that even they can get out of not getting the justice and the judgment that is to come to them. And they know it. They know it's coming. But God's not going to let them off the hook. The only reason your spouse is off the hook is you. That's it. That is all. Not to say that their family is not praying for them. But God put you in as a gap holder to break certain things that their family was not going to break. I guarantee you, the things that you have prayed about for this particular person in the deep realms and the deep places, they weren't even going to tell their family that that stuff was happening. God told you, and you stood in the gap for that. So there are things that are being done and broken. Some of these people, you got a day spouse innocently thought that there was a potential for them to be saved. And some of them, they can be saved, but they must choose to walk in God's way. They can't be having their knee bent to other gods thinking that they're going to be saved. Still operating in sin, thinking they're going to be saved. I was listening to a minister recently, and she was making the point of saying, the person had asked her for a prophecy, and then they came back and was darn near ready to fuss her out about the fact that the prophecy had not come to pass. And she said, you're still doing this, you're still doing this, you're still doing this in sin, you're still rebelling, you're operating in your own will in this area. God needs you to do this and this and this, and this is why it hasn't happened. My prophecy wasn't wrong. You were operating in the wrong spirit. And that's what's been the problem with these people. They have a level of pride that they think that they can use their victim narcissism to manipulate the God ordained spouse. But the fact that the scenario is they can't, it's not going to work. It's not going to allot for them to be able to come out, especially if they knowingly are operating in manipulation. Now, if they got a heart and the Lord has been pricking on them and they have actually been praying to God and started the process of coming out of some of the stuff, then there may be a chance for some of them. But some, they got too much pride. It ain't never going to be a case. God knows it ain't never going to be the case. And judicial judgment is set for them. It's a wrap. And that's usually the one that the God ordained spouse wants to save the most. It's not that it's anything wrong with his desire. It's the fact that God just knows from the beginning to the end what's the outcome. You can want something all day. Abigail wanted her husband to survive. David didn't kill her husband. God did. There is a judicial decree that is coming down on these people, just like it happened with Jezebel. They can't be saved. Samson's wife died. And I think he didn't marry her. I think there was the night before their wedding and she got killed. And even when you look at the woman that was in operation, she was being used. But you did see sympathy within that situation because you could tell she didn't want to do what she was doing to Samson, because I do truly believe that she had feelings for him. Some of these counterfeits, even the most narcissistic ones, are in situations where they have no out. They know it's no out. Some of them are willing to go down with the ship, meaning literally, well, I ain't got no out anyway. Let me just destroy this whole situation anyway. I'm not getting out of this. So let me take you down with me. Some of your spouses surrendered, catch this, their strength. They didn't do it knowingly. They did it out of heart for somebody else, operating in the wrong mindset, and misunderstanding. They did not know the full precepts of God's word, and some of them were just purposely choosing to operate in rebellion, and in their purposeful choice to operate in rebellion, they gave up something that was supposed to remain with them in relation to their legacy, thereby birthright. They gave it up. Some of them made a deal in agreement thinking that, okay, I'm going to sell this off for a period of time, but I'm going to buy it back later. I'm talking about assets. I'm talking about things that they had that was supposed to come to you and your children. In the thought process, I'll just get it later. But the enemy always has fine print. You sign this here, I'm going to still hold on to this. And you're going to, just like Jacob, I'm going to hold on to this for the next 7 years. You're like, okay, I'm going to get it back in 7 years. That's all right. But when you try to get it back, some of them tried to get back that birthright. Some of them tried to get back what it was that they worked for to build that they sold off. And it was a fight they weren't expecting in order to get it back. Jacob to Rachel. You understand what I'm saying? Wasn't expecting for Rachel to be given to the servant. They were not expecting that because during that time frame, some of their assets may have been sold off to multiple places, and they got to go back to the places that they've been sold off to and then have to retrieve them from those places. Because all the enemy wanted was for him to sign on the dotted line, because he has now made that person a slave. And they were thinking from their perspective, I'm just doing this to help this person. But that person is in cahoots with the very enemy because they are slaved to that enemy. Your husbands were not stupid. They were not dumb, but they were just a little bit uneducated. My people perish for lack of knowledge. So, with that being said, Hades unleashed the Titans who climbed Olympus and defeated the gods, while Chalyps goes to Thebes to kill Hercules. This reminds me of when Samson did what he did to lose his strength. See, there were things that he wasn't supposed to do. And those things were things that he was trapped into doing. Your God ordained spouse was trapped into doing or led into doing things that were in direct disobedience to the laws and edicts that they were supposed to follow. Remember, Samson was not supposed to drink fermented drink, was not supposed to cut his hair, and it was the third thing. Oh, was supposed to not eat out of anything dead. Your God ordained spouse was led to do certain things, much like Samson. They were led to do something defiling to their body. They were led into alcoholism or drug abuse. And some of them were led into giving up or giving up the thing that was their strength, giving up ownership, giving up what have you, that was their strength. Because see, the enemy knows that if there are certain parameters in order, he has to have those laws broken first before they can do what is necessarily needed to be done. Samson had to cut his hair. Samson had to eat or drink. Samson had to eat out of the carcass, and then he had to drink alcohol. These are the things that the enemy initiated. The enemy tricked your spouse into doing things that were direct disobedience through sin, operating in bending their knees to other gods, operating in opening doors that they never should have opened, so on and so forth. They were operating in spirits of lust, pride, all of these types of things. All the things that they were never supposed to do, operating in rebellion of God. Which thereby gave legal right for any of these things that were to come into their life. God couldn't cover them from it because they legally opened the door. So thereby, when Hades released the Titans, the clashing of the Titans. Remember in my previous word, I talked about the word of the clashing of the Titans. And I also forgot to mention in number 1, 2, 3, 8 means royal crown. And it was the taking down of the of what opposed God. So these people are in direct opposition in opposing God by luring this person to do this. And because the man gave up their strength, they cannot fight in this battle. When Samson lost his strength at his hair being cut, when time came to defend as if he had no strength in the midst of the fight. Some of your God ordained spouses are in the midst of a fight that they can't battle in because they physically don't have the strength, because they opened the door for the thing to give access for their strength to be taken in the first place. Some of these counterfeits, they're willing to risk their life to protect your God ordained spouse. Because in all actuality, the Lord themselves was allowing your God ordained spouse to have access to this person. But just as it states in the word, he makes your enemies your footstools. This person was being affected by the God in your spouse, that they actually felt like they could get or do something of positivity, they were protecting in that moment your spouse. In this scene, the Meg person moves Hercules out of the way and ends up being killed by a boulder. People operating in the wrong heart, wrong spirit, wrong mind, they will succumb to what is destined for them, meaning they were never going to have a good ending. But in them using or coming to God or protecting your spouse, some of them were just being used, just like God uses your enemies to as your footstools. They were always going to get their judicial judgment, but in the interim time, he will allow their hearts to turn towards that person in assistance until their assignment is completed. And whatever was meant to come to them will come to them as soon as the Lord is finished using them in that. And some of this is the case for the counterfeit. Their hearts were turned towards them for the use in which God needed. But when their usefulness is no longer necessary, the judicial judgment that was always planned for them is going to take effect. There's no way around it. They could have even prayed for that person. But if there were certain things that God knew and there were certain things that they did not choose to change, they were going to come to an end. Period. So Meg dies before he can return to her. So to recover Meg's soul, Hercules goes to the underworld and risks his life by leaping into the river Styx. Some of your God-ordained spouses are willing to go the extra distance or have had been in a state where they were going for the extra distance for the wrong person. Now, as it relates to you, they're the ones that are willing to go to this mile for you. Wherever you are, wherever you're trapped at, wherever it is, they're coming for you to save you. Now, as it relates to soul saving, they may have wanted to save the people's soul, but it's God that gets the last decision on whether their soul will be saved. So, thanks to his heroic act, Hercules' godhood / mortality is restored. It is for some of your God-ordained spouses, certain sacrifices that they chose to make out of their heart's human desire is what turned God back towards them. Now let's see. So after that, Hercules knocks Hades into the river where he is trapped by the other spirits. So when the Lord is ready, he will organize the situation that the enemy will get trapped in their own schemes. As according to the word, you dig a pit for your brother, you're going to fall in yourself. He fell into the exact same river and ended up, his spirit got held up with them as well. And Zeus and Athena welcomed their son home. So your God ordained spouse will come to the realization and come back home to God. He will. It's just that it takes time for that to happen. And there are things that they have had to deal with, fight for, come out of alignment with, and agreement with, that they just didn't understand. And for you, you need to stand in the gap. Upon my time frame of recording this, we are in the holy days of that 3-day period between Good Friday, Saturday, and Easter Sunday. In this time is a good time to pray in repentance for your spouses in what they have done. Pray for their hearts, their minds, their spirits, the things that they have done. Stand in the gap. Bring this judicial information back to the Lord in order to come as a defense for your spouse and even for their counterfeits as they are being prepared to go into judicial judicial judgment. Some of them are going through their judgment right now. It is due to this judgment that they gotta fight through in order for them to even get to you. So with this happening, Lord, how you want me to do this? Because let's just go into, because the next thing I wanted to talk about was the mistress. Zeus was assumed to have the mistress Alcema, that she's best known as the mother. Let's see. She's strong in wrath. She is the wife of Amphilemon, and by whom she bore 2 children. She's best known as the mother of Hercules, whose father is god of Zeus. And she's also known as Electra One. So, with that being said, let's just talk here, since we're talking about these women. The women that your God ordained spouse came into contact with. Now, this was actually Zeus's wife. They have, notice all of these women. None of these women seemingly are good women in any way, shape, or form. They may have a heart up under all of that soullessness deep down, but notice all of the women, from Rebecca to Sarah to the woman that Delilah, who seduced Samson in order to take his power. And then I forget what the other one's name is. That was his first wife that he was going to marry. And that was the sweet, kind one. You have to come to the understanding that the enemy, if he could get you in that scenario to capture you and take you out, much like, because let's just talk about that for a moment. Samson's betrothed wife was taken up to the top of the castle and thrown off into the fire as the field was on fire the day before they were to get married. The enemy would love to stop you and your God ordained spouse from tying the knot to any capacity. The Lord's not going to allow that. But he had to come and fight for her. Some of your God ordained spouses have had loss previously. Some of your God ordained spouses, you are a do-over of that person that they lost due to a freak incident. Because God promised them something. Your heart matches that person's. For some, your God ordained spouse had a first love before all this mess that they got involved into years ago. That it didn't go anywhere because the Lord didn't allow it to go anywhere. And once they got mixed up in the places, spaces, industries, and people that they got involved in, it never blossomed anything because it never really was. It just faded into the background and was lost. You are almost a redo for them for that. You are the best of all the worlds that they have come into contact with. You're the best of it. And they are fighting to get to you. Samson fought to get to that woman, but he was unable to stop what happened. Your husband's not going to stop fighting for you. So I'm going to come back in the next one because I'm almost out of space here.